You know, we've been talking about how Jesus calls us to himself, right? Jesus calls us to follow him. And tonight we're going to talk about that calling you've heard much about in this ministry. Jesus calls us to abide with him, right? John 15, Jesus says, "Abide in me and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I'm the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing." This is what we do in Influencers. This is why the journey exists, to help men and women understand what it means to abide in Christ and how to do it. I remember the first journey group I led in 2006. I'd never been through the journey. I'd only read Journey to the Inner Chamber. Mind you, it was in a manuscript form. It wasn't even published yet. I did have a pretty good mentor, a guy named Rocky Fleming. I'd been looking for a way to disciple men, and I've been looking for curriculum, looking for a way. I'd met men all over Tulsa, and if you don't know Tulsa, it's like the buckle of the Bible Belt. It's like there's a church on every half corner. And I even had a network of men that I'd formed because I was trying to connect men and all that. I had 1,000 men on my database, and there was a consistent element missing. It was discipleship. And now I heard that there's this process to teach you how to abide in Christ so you can become a disciple and then know how to go make disciples. And I was all in. But as I was inviting the men, I didn't really know how to explain what the journey was or even what abiding was, right? So, and I was asking guys from all different churches because I wanted this to really take root in multiple churches, not just my church. I invited my church too. But anyway, these were all busy guys. A lot of them were elders in their church or leaders in the men's ministry at their church, important business guys in our community. Even the DA was there. Anyway, and I would meet with them for coffee, and I'd say, invite them to go on the journey, and I'd say, I don't exactly know what this is, but it's about an intimate relationship with Christ. And it was those words, those simple words, that would cause them to kind of go, because originally they're kind of wanting to write it off like, I don't need another Bible study. But I said, no, this is about an intimate relationship with Christ. And these are seasoned leaders and mature Christians, and they would just kind of sit back like, I'm not sure I have that, whatever that is. Well, anyway, the man tonight who's going to help us dive into this calling, he's a guy who's abiding. His name is Tony Schaar from Central Coast, California. Tony Schaar is a leader out there in the Central Coast. He's a proud father of 2 daughters. He's passionate about helping men move from striving to abiding and learning to live from a place of dependence on Christ rather than performance. Through his work in real estate and ministry, Tony equips others to align their lives with purpose, bearing lasting fruit, and to lead with authenticity in both business and faith. And it's so good, I'll just say this, it's so good to see God raising up the next generation of leaders in this ministry, because guys like Jim Pennington and Frank Cooley are getting old. So it's really nice. So please welcome our speaker tonight, Tony Schaar.
Let's turn this thing on here. And Jim, I wrote the first part. Brian made that second part up. I didn't say anything about you being old, wherever you are. It's an honor to be up here, guys. This is a responsibility I don't take lightly. If you want to know what abiding looks like, this is what it looks like. It's uncomfortable at times, but I'm super, super grateful for the men in this ministry who've just put their arms around me. If I just flew out here just to get the prayers that I just got, it would have been enough. I mean, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all you men that have just poured into me and loved on me. So, big shoes to follow from Fred to Gary. I mean, those guys, full disclosure, I got wiped out about 3 days ago with a nasty virus. Like, couldn't talk, couldn't swallow. So I'm running at about 50% of my normal enthusiasm, which I think is about 5% of Gary's. So the Holy Spirit's going to lift me up. If you guys could lift me up too, I'd really appreciate it. But yeah, thanks. The way that I've been taught in this ministry to share, like Brian talked about, it's not from theory. It's not teaching and preaching. It's from personal experience. And that's what I'm going to share with you guys tonight. And let me just tell you, my first thought when I was asked to share on abiding was to tell you guys how I abided and what it looked like. Put a nice bow on it, tell you how everything came together once I got in the journey. And that's a part of my story. But this is about abiding and what it looks like in my life right now. And God interrupted that story just a couple days ago. So up until a few minutes ago, I was writing notes on what it looks like right now. But it's being shaped by the men in this room, by the things that I've heard in the last couple days, and I'm just so grateful to be walking with all of you through this. So let's see if I can make this thing work. Okay, so here's my hook. Working for him, but not walking with him. I got busy for the Lord in the last year. Like Brian talked about, I've taken on a leadership role with influencers on the Central Coast, walking alongside Jim Pennington, who's done an awesome job of building that up there in our neighborhood. But I found myself disconnected, busy for the Lord, but disconnected from him recently, working for him, but not walking with him. So, this is a room full of leaders and seasoned Christians. I would imagine, being only 4 years into this thing, that I'm probably one of the newbies on the block in this room. And I've found already a version of Christianity, even serving in this ministry, that looks powerful. It looks purposeful. It looks really productive. It's busy. It even bears some visible fruit. But inside it feels disconnected. And men, I'm a doer. I'm a guy that likes to get in there and do stuff. I'm an action sports guy. I want to be starting new groups and getting out ahead of it, and we're going to do a big event, and it's going to be a 3-ring circus. Les knows what I'm talking about. And my testimony, I'm not going to go all the way back this time. I recently gave my testimony at one of our M6s and what it was like from the beginning. I'm going to start tonight in 2022 because that's really when my life shifted in a big way. And it shifted with this verse that's been read several times, I'm the vine, you are the branches. If you abide in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Jesus makes this very clear. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Not less, not that less, not a little, nothing. And so recently I found myself in this place that was really uncomfortable for me. I was effective. People were saying, you're doing a great job, you're doing so much work. But like I said, I felt a disconnection. And so I had to ask myself that question. Am I truly connected? Am I doing things for God, checking boxes? Or am I actually abiding in him? And that's a hard question to answer, truthfully sometimes, when you're in leadership, because it looks like you're abiding. But I felt like I was off track. So in 2022, like I said, my life shifted. I had a successful career in import and manufacturing, which I'd been doing for like 15 years. And I won't get into the circumstances, but that career shifted. It ended without my consent. And so I stepped full-time into real estate in 2022. And I was starting my life over basically from scratch. And that was the same time that I found influencers in the journey. So those two things ran parallel for me. The other thing that happened in 2022 was there was a huge market shift in real estate. Interest rates went from 3% to 8%. Transactions went to almost nothing in our area. There was fear and anxiety everywhere. People told me, this is a bad move, don't do it. Don't move into this career right now, find something else. This isn't the right time. But my identity, my operating system at that point was rooted in one thing. It was rooted in proving myself. Through effort, through discipline, and through results. So I was in the journey and I was just learning to abide and encountering God, but I was still using this operating system of, I've got to make it work. It's all on me. So I built success the only way I knew how. Intensity, drive, relentless effort. Let me get some water here because, like I said, this flu bug is really attacking me. Sorry, but the thing is, that approach, it worked. I started to have success in real estate. I was making money, building momentum, getting awards. But I didn't feel inside like I was doing it the right way. I felt anxiety. I felt pressure. Here's what I didn't realize. I can build things that look fruitful in the world and still be completely disconnected. From the beginning of my career in real estate, I was trying to do things for God, but I wasn't actually with Him. I was applying His principles, but I wasn't depending on His presence. I had results, but I wasn't rooted. And there's a difference between fruit and output. Because underneath it all that anxiety, that fear, that striving, it was crushing me. I was still trying to prove that I was enough. And when those feelings are present, I'm not abiding. So fast forward 2 years, I've now gone through a journey group. I've co-guided a group. I'm still learning how to abide. And I'm at a solely business. Oh. No, guys, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm gonna faint right now.
Some more water, Tony.
Yeah. Can I get my mic? Okay. Guys, I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna shoot from the hip. The Lord is not going to, this message is not gonna not be delivered. I'm not gonna let the enemy take me out, okay? When I tell you that he has been fighting me tooth and nail to keep me off this stage, I've never experienced a fight like this in my life. And I've been through some tough stuff, so I feel better sitting down, taking my sweatshirt off. It's a little hot up here. But I'm going to go back if you guys bear with me because I was running on blank tape there for a minute. Am I truly connected? Lord, am I truly connected right now? I'm trying, Lord. I'm trying to abide. Thanks. No, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. That's right. That's right. Man, I love you guys. I love you guys. Where else can you? Yeah, they say if a man's down, kick him, he'll get up faster. So what I was going to say in spring of 2024, after going through a season of journey, I was with my brothers at a Soli business in Bakersfield. And during one of those extended prayer sessions, like we had today, I was praying for relief again in my business, relief from pressure, relief from fear, relief from financial anxiety. And God answered me for the first time in a really, really clear way. I'd never had prayer answered so directly like that before, but he told me, go all in. Stop focusing on your business and start focusing on mine. Because I'd been praying for outcomes. I'd been praying for financial freedom from financial insecurity, all that, and he just said, he didn't rebuke me, he just redirected me back to something that I'd read in the journey, but I hadn't fully embraced yet: personal abandonment and absolute trust. And that was a light bulb moment for me. Time with him at that point became non-negotiable. Up till that point, it was something that I kind of fit into my life. It wasn't a pillar. I didn't have an altar where I went every day to spend time with the Lord, to abide in his presence. I'd do my journey work, the night before to check the box. I'd chat GPT something and write it to make it seem like I'd done the work. I know I'm the only one that's ever done that. So my prayer shifted from asking for things from the Lord to listening. My decisions in my business started to flow from the Spirit and not from pressure. And what happened after that Soli business, when I came back down the hill and I went back to work in that next year, 2025, my mic, was pretty undeniable. 2025 was the most productive, most fruitful, most financially successful year of my entire working career. And people thought I'd stepped away from my business and into ministry because of how involved I became in influencers. I can't explain it to you any other way other than I was working in God's economy at that point. I was no longer worried about where my next deal was coming from, how I was going to make it work. I was just trusting the Lord. Anytime I was asked to serve in influencers, I said yes, just like today. And I was faithful. I trusted. I personally abandoned myself to Jesus, and I absolutely trusted that he would take care of the business, and he was faithful. I didn't change industries. I just changed the source of my power. Now, I could just stop there, wrap everything up, and tell you that abiding solved everything and my life has been perfect ever since, but that wouldn't be honest, because when Brian asked me to speak on abiding, I went back into prayer, and God showed me some things that were going on that I didn't like. I'd started drifting again, like I said. I'd started checking boxes again. Not into sin, but into subtle independence. I was being obedient to the Lord, which we've heard Gary, we've heard Fred. Obedience is definitely important, right? And abiding and obedience go hand in hand. But I was being obedient, or I thought I was being obedient, but I was no longer abiding. And abiding is not more activity, more knowledge, more discipline. For me, it's about more than just staying or remaining. because I hadn't left God. You can stay in the right place, but not be dependent. You can remain in activity, which is what I was doing, but not be connected. And so for me, when I really meditated on this, when I asked myself the question, are you abiding right now? Abiding is about dependence. The last soli that I went to where I was asked to speak, I brought everybody a little plastic frog, little symbol, a little frog that I gave to everybody, because for me, FROG is an acronym, fully rely on God. And it's, every time I see a frog, I think fully rely on God. But moment by moment, choosing to stay connected and dependent on him for everything. Jesus doesn't command activity of me. He invites me into relationship. And for me, sometimes obedience can turn into performance. Anybody ever get there where you're just performing on the horizontal for the men that you're with, or the ministry that you're a part of? So abiding is dependence. It's not transactional, it's relational. So the big shift for me in this last couple months, the question I used to ask the Lord in the morning was, Lord, what do you want me to do today? Where do you want me to go? Put the people in front of me that you want me to connect with, and, help me to serve you today the best way I can, which is a good prayer. But I started asking the Lord sincerely, Lord, am I with you right now? Quiet the noise in my heart and teach me to remain in you. Because I don't want to go out and win the day and lose our connection. So abiding is really easy. And I'm abandoning my slides. I got all kinds of stuff I could have showed you, but I'm going to put that down. Abiding, for me, is really easy in stillness. I'm going to paint you a picture. I've got, outside of my bedroom, I've got French doors, and they open up onto a little balcony that looks out at the Pacific Ocean. I've got a beautiful view. There's a chair out there. And every morning I get up before the sun comes up, and I get my Bible. I got a cup of coffee, pre-programmed, ready to rock. I grab my journal. I get in that chair. I spend time in the Word. I write down what the Lord's speaking to me. I drink that warm coffee, and I watch the sun come up over the ocean. And there's no question that the Lord is with me and I'm with him in that moment. Can you picture it? So when does abiding stop for me? When everybody else wakes up. When the world starts moving. And for me, it shows up in 3 places. These are the 3 spots in my life when abiding really suffers. Pressure. When deals are on the line. When there's big stakes, big money, and I've got to make things happen. I start pulling levers and making moves. So a little prayer that I say now to try to remain with the Lord in those, when I've got an important meeting, whenever I've got an important meeting or something pressing that I've got to go into, I just say, okay, Lord, you go first. You go before me. I'm following you. I'm walking in this room with you. The question I ask myself, am I striving or am I trusting? Second place that abiding breaks down for me is with success. When things are working, believe it or not, that's when I stop abiding. It's easy for me to abide, and I think Gary touched on this too. It's easy for me to get on my knees when the world brings me there. It's easy for me to abide and be humble when I'm humiliated. It's hard for me to abide when I'm winning. Question I ask myself, am I still dependent or am I drifting? In leadership, I've touched on this already. This is a spot where I find myself not abiding. When people look at me, am I giving them me or am I pointing them to him? Here's what I've learned. Abiding doesn't break down for me when things are hard. It breaks down when they're working because success funds independence in me. And independence will quietly replace intimacy. So Jesus didn't say, without me, Tony, it'll be difficult. He didn't say, without me, it'll be hard. He said, without me, you can do nothing. He also said in the Sermon on the Mount, one of the verses that rocks me, Matthew 7:23, I never knew you. Go away from me, I never knew you. Depart from me, I never knew you. I don't know about you guys, but that one shakes me. That one really rings my bell. I think about that verse because it means the issue wasn't activity. He didn't say, I didn't see what you did. He said, I never knew you. The issue was intimacy. So I have to be careful because in success it can look like fruit, but it's just output. What I know is God's not calling me to do less. He wants me to be active. He wants me to be involved. He wants me to be growing influencers on the Central Coast, but he is calling me to depend more. Some of you guys in this room, I know, a lot of you guys I know, and you're doing a lot for God. But if you're honest, if you ask yourself that question, maybe some of you aren't with him like you used to be. Maybe some guys in this room have built some momentum with ministry, but they've lost some of that intimacy. But like I said, Jesus, in this time that I've spent, didn't ask me to do more. He invited me back. Not to more activity, but to abiding. Apart from him, I can do nothing. Not less, not a little, nothing. But when I'm with him, I stop striving. And I become who he created me to be. So men, you're going to go to your breakout groups, and I hope that I've given you something to chew on. I hope that I've encouraged you that the enemy didn't win and that I could get through this. Thank you for bearing with me. And I hope that maybe just one of you can return to abiding. Escape the performance and the output. Get rid of the self-dependence and the self-reliance that's replacing intimacy with God. That's all I've got. Thanks, guys.